Hello, and welcome to another iClone 7 Academy tutorial. Let's create a brand new project. So I'm going to select my character, to the modify over here and click on the animation tab. And then I'm going to just go edit motion layer. And let's start placing the feet first. So I'm going to select the right foot and just move it out over here like that. Using the W and E key here, we'll go ahead and place that foot correctly in the proper angle, like that. Okay. Now let's select the left foot, do the same thing. Now you don't want to have the leg straight down so that it goes perfectly straight, because if you do so, that could create a problem with the IK when it's trying to do the tweening or in-betweening, and it will create a snap on the walk, and you don't want that. So always leave the limbs slightly bent. It doesn't, you know, as long as they're not perfectly straight and stiff, you're okay. Alright, just a little hint there. So if you're wondering how come your animation is popping in certain areas, it's just probably because you have a keyframe where the limb is perfectly straight. Alright, so we got the legs, and now let's go move on to the arms. Well, let's move the arm. This is the right arm, moves this way. Now, we want the forearm to have this kind of angle right now. And let's go ahead and move this guy, and let's move the arm inwards now, like that. And let's see, that looks good. Let's move it up a little bit, like that. Alright, and let's make a fist out of the hand. And make sure that the fist is slightly below the shoulder level. And let's push the hand a little bit more forward, like that. Now let's go ahead and get the left hand and do the same thing. Pose it. Let's make a fist on the left hand as well. Now let's go ahead and what we're going to do is add a little bit of twist to the spine to make it feel more natural. To do this, we're going to use the FK, and let's go to the front view, pressing F here. I'm going to select the hip, and I'm going to rotate the hip -10, and then I'm going to select the upper torso here, and I am going to give it a value of 20. And we're going to select the head because right now it's looking sideways here. We're going to straighten the head up, and let's give it a value of -10, like that. Yeah, well, he's looking straight forward. Alright, so we got that a little bit of twisting action going on the spine, where the hips are going counterclockwise, clockwise, and the shoulders are rotating slightly counterclockwise. So we have this like inverted twist going on along the spine. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, and this is from the side view, is we're going to give it a little bit of a curve to the spine, because right now he's like too stiff and straight. So let's go ahead and use the IK instead of the FK. Select the hip again, and go E for rotation. And notice now that when we move the hip, it's just moving the hip right there. So let's tilt it forward a little bit, not too much. And then now we can go back to our FK and do some more rotation on the spine to give it a nice curve to the character spine. Alright, so now we straighten him up like that, and if we show the bones now, you can see a nice little S shape on the spine. So now that we have our character set up, we are going to mirror this pose so we can get to the half cycle. And what do I mean by that? Well, check this out. So our first pose is the contact pose, as I explained on part 1. Our second pose is supposed to be the passing pose. However, if we use the magic of computer animation, if you do the contact pose and then you do the mirror contact pose, eventually when you in between those two poses in the middle, you're going to create yourself a passing pose without even having to do it yourself. All you're going to have to do at the most is actually raise the right foot and maybe lower the hands a little bit, so you're almost going to be there. So let's let the computer do the heavy lifting, and then we just do the little tweaking after. Okay? All right. Well, we need to open the timeline to do that. And in order to keep more realistic, because you're going to find out that as soon as you bring in the curve editor, you're going to end up with less real estate than you may want. And plus, look how small our view of the curve editor is going to get. It's going to get super tight in here. So something that you may want to do to readjust the real estate is change the way you're viewing things, the workspace, from standard to animation. This will give you more real estate if you actually remove the play bar over here like that, and then you can go ahead and open up this to get the most of the real estate that you can, like that. And then now if we open our curve editor, you will see you have a lot more space to work here with the curves. So before we go into that, let's go ahead and keep working on the timeline editor. Now we click on the little twirlies here, and we're going to go down, and we're going to be working mostly with these tracks over here. So I already have my space set up properly the way I want it. And what we're going to do here is something that's new in 7.1 is that all the motions from the motion layer are going to be saved into a motion clip. And what I mean by that, this is the clip right here. It's kind of tiny right now. You can't see it because it's on a single frame. So we're going to extend this. Now to do that, all I'm going to do is make sure that this icon is on, which is the auto extend. By default, it's going to be off. So we turn it on. And then on my torso track, I'm just going to double click here to extend the clip. So now you can see it that all the keys are going to be put inside these clips, and these clips are really cool way to work with animation, because you'll be able to copy keyframes from one clip to another, and now you can actually mirror keys, which is another great function. This is what we're going to use now. So we are going to go from our first contact pose into the mirror contact pose, which is the middle of the walk cycle. Okay, so let's go ahead and select the key over here, which is at 40 for the torso, and let's go to FK and let's start readjusting the parts. Before we do that, actually, let's go ahead and let's go to inside the modify panel. Let's go ahead and make sure that we have foot contact on. So that means that when the foot touches the ground, you can see the ball of the foot here is touching. And we will play with the height pretty soon. For now, just leave it on like that. And I will show you what I mean by playing with the height. All right. So let's go ahead and play with the motion layer first, and we are going to invert the keys that we have for the spine. So for the hip we had a -10, so let's go ahead and remove the negative sign and press enter. So now we go 10. For the shoulders, instead of 20, we're going to go -20 and press enter. And for the head, we are going to remove the negative sign and press enter. Alright, let's see it from the front view. So that looks correct. So this is the opposite. Notice, however, that we have a little bit of tilt on the head. So we can adjust this, no problem, simply by going to the head and putting a 3. Could straighten it out. Yep, that did it. So if you look at now, the head is straighter. And now let's go ahead to our first key over here and put -3 on this over here. So now let's go to the side view, and now we have that hip motion happening there. All right, next we're going to mirror the limbs, the position of the limbs. So to do that, what you do is you click on the key you want, you go copy, and then you go to the opposite limb, and now we're going to go to frame 40 of the right arm, and we're going to go paste symmetrically. Now notice that both arms now are back. So I'm going to remove the this guy. So you can see clearly now, both arms are back. And now I'm going to select the right arm at frame 1. I'm going to copy that frame, and then I'm going to pass it to the left arm. And now we have the arms moving from one side to the other. Alright, so let's do the same thing with the legs now. So I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to right click copy, and for the right leg, click at 40 here, paste symmetrically, and let's go ahead and do the same thing we did before. We're going to select the right leg this time. We are going to copy and put it over here on the left and paste symmetrically, and let's do the same thing for the feet. And the right foot now, and paste. Alright, so now if we scrub, we go from 1 to the mirror version of those keys. We know that to complete the cycle here, we need to copy the first pose and end it with the same pose. So we're going to copy all the keys from the first pose. I'm going to select everything here. I'm going to go right click copy, and we'll go to frame 80, and I'm going to double click on the torso first to extend the clip, and now I'm going to click on this top little guide, and I'm going to go paste. So this will take us into the full walking cycle. And these are just the contact poses, remember? So now I was talking about height. Now notice that the heel of the foot here is floating. So we're going to adjust the overall height of this walk cycle of this character and lower it so that he makes contact with both feet. And to do so, we're going to use the curve editor, which is a super nifty tool to work with. Alright. Now we're just going to concentrate on the hip position for Z, which is the up and down position. Okay, so let's go ahead and fit this in. This is right there your frame, for it will frame the whole curve properly. And let's go ahead and lower the entire curve. That means all the keys are associated with the Z axis for the hip at the same time. So now let's go ahead and go to frame 1, and I'm going to press the shift key, and I'm going to move all the keys down all at the same time until that heel of that left foot is touching the ground. So this will guarantee now that all of our feet are touching the ground as we walk. Now, of course, this is creating some really extreme poses. So what we need to do is readjust the foot a little bit here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just bring up our animation motion layer editor, and let's select the right foot, and let's make sure that we're not crashing into the ground so hard. So let's give it a little looser. And let's bring in our background here just to make sure that we got a nice extension going on here like that. And the same thing for the foot, the left foot. So let's give it a nice little extension like that. And it'll bring the foot up a little bit more perhaps by rotating it. Like that. Now, let's go ahead and zoom out, see what we got, see how this looks. We are pretty close. It doesn't have to look perfect, but there we go. Maybe we put this right leg a little too far back, so let's go ahead and push that a little bit back in by moving it. Not too much. Like that. There we go. Alright, that's good. Now, let's go ahead and recopy the legs so that we are matching actually much easier. Let's go ahead and select this whole row here, and we can delete that, and let's recopy it. I'm going to go over here, copy, and go right here, in there, and let's do a paste. So there we go. Whatever changes we did before are there still. Very good. Okay, so next what we're going to do is create a little bit of the up and down motion. Notice how the heads go down first and then it goes to the high point and then go back to the contact pose, which is the mirror pose, and then it goes down and up, and that's how it finishes the whole cycle. So it kind of goes down, up, and then back to normal. So this will make the walking cycle a little more natural, as opposed to if it goes perfectly in line, it doesn't look so good. So let's go ahead and play with the height now of the hip, because that controls the height of our character. So let's go to frame 10 here. And we are going to move our character closer to this character over here. And then we are going to apply the height over there. Let's see, let's make sure that this guy right here, the height is like that. Okay, so remember, we're moving the camera right now. I'm not moving the character. Okay, so now we're lined up with the height over there. Let's line up with the height with this guy now. So I'm just lining up the heels of the left foot here as a reference. So we're going to add a key over here by clicking on this icon over there. And now let's go ahead and press the shift to lock it on one axis down. There we go, like that. All right, so this is our recoil pose. And let's go ahead and go to our high point, which would be about here. So let's move our character with the camera there. So let's line up the ball of the foot with the character there. So it's almost there. All we got to do now is make sure we got some height coming out of there. So let's go ahead and click on an empty space here and add a key to the curve. Now notice here it says add keyframes for all curves. This is all the curves that are actually displayed. That's very important to know, because it's not adding keys to any of these curves over here. There is only the ones that are being displayed right now. So this is a great way to isolate and add keys to curves. So now we're going to go ahead and give this guy a little bit of lift. So let's shift move up click on the keyframe and move it up. All right, we don't want to make him float, so we got to make sure that foot makes some contact afterwards. That's pretty good height. Now let's go ahead and again, using the motion layer editor, let's do a little bit of IK and push that leg down again to make sure that it's not the right foot. Actually, the right foot needs to go up in this case, so that's okay. Let's go ahead and put it up now since we're at it, and let's rotate it down like so. All right, and now let's go ahead and select the left foot this time, and we're going to push it down a little bit to make sure that it's making contact with the ground, and we're kind of straightening it out a little bit. Remember, don't go too crazy, because then the popping will start happening. So there we go. Now we have ground contact there. Now let's get a little closer, because right now it's really hard to see. Notice we have a really tight bend on the foot right there. So let's loosen it up a little bit like that. Okay, so we have, and now let's go ahead and tweak up a little bit the down. Look at this. This guy is really getting pushed. And since we are doing the recoil pose here, notice that the right foot is actually not just the tip of the toe is barely touching the ground. So let's go ahead and select the right foot here and just adjust it right now, so it looks more natural like that, like so. There we go. And let's go ahead and tweak the arms a little bit. So notice that they go a little further out like that, and for the left arm goes a little further out like this. All right, so next we go to our passing pose, and remember what I was talking about, the in-betweening doing the job for us? Look at that, we are almost there already. So our passing pose right here is this guy over there. Look, it's almost a perfect match. All we got to do is just lower the hands a little bit. So let's do so. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and just take a look at it from the side view, because that way we can see if the arms are going to crush against the body or not. So let's give it it looks like we're going to need a little bit of rotation on the arm to the side over here like that, and move it down. Let's go to the side view now. Now we can go ahead and use the IK, so we know it's not gonna crush into the leg when we lower it like that. And again, we are trying to mimic this pose right here, so that looks good right there. Let's make sure that it's not crushing into the leg. And let's see, let's play it. So we have contact, recoil, passing pose, high pose, and contact again. Pretty good. Let's watch from the side. So we have, now this is obviously a little too much, so let's go ahead and bring that left foot up a little bit so it doesn't crush so hard against the floor. And let's play it. That looked pretty natural, right? Alright, so we have the nice up and down action going on here with the spine. So I'm going to do a frame so you can see the spline here for the up and down of the hip. So what we need to do is take care of the second part of the cycle, which is mirror poses of this poses that we created over here. This 4 poses right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Remember, the full cycle goes down, up, and then we end up back to the first frame. Alright, so we need to copy the down. So let's go to 50 here and add a keyframe. And we're going to copy this keyframe over here, the value of those keyframes, by selecting the numbers and going Control C. And now let's go ahead and select that key and do Control V. Press Enter. Alright, so we got that going on there. So let's go to frame 30, which is our high point. And let's go ahead and copy the values of this key. So I'm gonna copy, and now I'm gonna go over here to frame 70 and add a frame, and I'm gonna go ahead and select the values here and paste them. Alright, now notice that when we did this, it's creating very extreme tangents on the keys. Now to make this look a little more natural, I'm going to right click anywhere inside this little in the window for the curve editor. I'm going to select all keys and I'm going to go auto. This will normalize the curve to create nice smooth curves. So now that we have this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fit everything first. I'm going to fit to window here so that I can actually grab this. I'm going to bring this all the way back here, and next I'm going to go ahead and take it back to actual size, like that, and bring this little tab over here so we can play our cycle. So let's make sure that you got to make sure you have loop on. So to do that, it's in here. This is the little guy over here. So I'm going to turn that back out of there. And let's go ahead and remove the background here and just play it. So there you go. This will conclude our part 2 of this tutorial, and on part 3 we'll go ahead and refine this further and use a brand new technique using reach effectors, which is a new feature in iClone 7.1. Until then, have a good night and take care. Bye bye.